punch the, good morning, call to order the special meeting of the Escambia County Contractor Competency Board for September 20th, 22. Secretary, can you read the rules?
Our secretary is out due to an emergency, and I'll be handling that for you. I'm Christy Hankins. I'm the Assistant County Attorney. The Escambia County Contractor Competency Board rules. Please silence all cell phones. If you wish to speak, please let the board secretary know in advance. Otherwise, raise your hand for the board chair to recognize your request. When the chairman calls you to speak, come to the podium, adjust the microphone, then state your name and address for the record. You are requested to keep your remarks brief and factual. Both parties of an issue will be granted uniform maximum time to speak, typically 3 to 5 minutes. This hearing is considered quasi-judicial. Conduct is formal, and profane or derogatory comments will not be tolerated.
Thank you. Can you pull up the agenda, please? All right, thank you. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, sir.
We'll be waiting for one member in order to be able to vote, but we can continue with the agenda for now until we get into items that need a vote. Proof of publication?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, it was published on September the 15th of 2022 in the Escambia Sun Press.
Okay, can I have approval of the minutes for the County Competency Board, September 7th, 22?
Motion to approve.
You get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we'll open the floor to a public forum. I hope everybody has signed in order to speak. We would appreciate you keeping it to the 3 minutes required, because we do have a lot of the agenda and to go through. So if anybody has something to say at this point, please approach the podium with your name and address.
Mr. Chairman, we have no public speakers.
Okay, thank you. Board Secretary status report.
Mr. Chairman, there's nothing for the board secretary status report. We can go to the next item, please.
Thank you. All right, do you want to move it up for the contractor applications?
Item number 7.1, Tracy Edwards is applying for unlimited roofing examination. Mr. Edwards, would please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
I'm Tracy Edwards. My address is 379 North Canoe Road, Atmore, Alabama.
Mr. Edwards, good morning.
Good morning.
And here's an application for roofing?
Roofing, yes, sir.
All right.
After reviewing the application, we recommend testing, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Item number 7.2, Katerina Hamani is applying for general contractor examination. Ms. Hamani, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the records.
Katerina Hamami, 661 Central Street, Pensacola, Florida, 32502. Good morning.
Good morning.
After reviewing the application, we recommend testing, Vice Chairman.
Motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Item number 7.3, Andrew Melton is applying for the building contractor examination. Mr. Melton, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the records.
Good morning.
Good morning. Andrew Melton, 2750 Edwards Road, Southport, Florida, 32409.
After reviewing the application, we recommend testing, Vice Chairman.
Motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right.
Thank you. Have a great
Have
day.
a great day.
Mr. Chairman, we expect that there's another, Mike Batchelor is going to be here momentarily. The next thing that we're moving into are these probable cause hearings, and I know that Mr. Downs has previously recused himself, and I don't, if we're in that same situation, if you could state that for the record, whether or not you're gonna be participating in the voting on the probable cause.
No, I'm recusing myself.
Okay, so we would need to have Mr. Batchelor here and able to have quorum to vote on these items. If we could take a break until he can get here. I had one more thing to make the board aware of, and also anybody who's gonna speak on their own behalf. We're going to introduce the investigation that's been done by Melissa right into the record. We'll ask the board to accept it as evidence, and then there'll need to be a motion and a second, and then it can be accepted as evidence. And that, then we'll, instead of having her read the whole thing into the record, you'll need to rely on that for your facts of the case. And then we will also, then we'll call witnesses. I've reviewed the rules. I know we can do it this way.
Okay.
And if it helps the board, I will conduct any questions. And then if you have anything in addition, you can conduct questions yourself, if it's assistance to you.
I think that's great to help move this forward. We got a lot on the agenda, and plus we have a little delay right now with waiting for the other member to make the quorum, so I appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
You want to have a brief adjournment?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
while we're in this moment, can I ask,
Please.
last meeting I asked about looking into bringing probable cause and disciplinary maybe closer together, doing the same meeting. I know other counties are doing that. Have we looked into that at all, or have we heard anything?
I have looked into it. It's certainly, it's a possibility. The problem that we have right now is with these cases, we're in a status that we have to finish. So we would have to draft something and take it to the board. So it's a possibility, but for this big crush of cases that we have right now, it would not be faster than us finishing them out in the next month. It wouldn't be a process that I would think would be faster than that, because of the work that's already been done by investigations.
Right.
But I think by stepping this up where we can get more done in a meeting in a shorter amount of time will be helpful to the board. And then we can revisit that when we don't have this crush of Banks and Lacoste cases.
And this will go to the county commissioner. It has to be approved by them, correct? That's
Right,
what
we
I-
would have to
okay.
draft something and
right.
then take it to the county commissioners, because it is part of, that's their jurisdiction.
And it is legal from what I understand. Other counties are doing it throughout the state, so it's something we can definitely help improve our image.
Well, yeah,
Get things done faster.
this has been an unusual circumstance with the
very
volume.
much.
It's not something we typically go through, thankfully.
Right.
So, the county set it up this way.
Right.
We're following the rules.
Sure, yeah.
So we'll make some recommendations to them to see if we can expedite some of these things to
Think we all
prevent
learned
this.
on this.
Yes, unfortunately, you have to do this sometimes, so hopefully we can have some way to expedite this for the public.
Right, well, we're hoping not to have another situation like this.
Right.
And so far, up until this occurred, the system had moved along
Right.
very well,
Right.
so,
Didn't need to tweak it till now. Good deal. Thank you. Thank you.
sure.
Thank you. We'll take a brief break to wait for the other board member to show up, so we can get this moving. Hopefully, we'll expedite it once we get started.
Thank you, Mr. Vice.
That's right. We're gonna go ahead and call it back to order and get this moving. We're ready to go. We've got a quorum now. Where did? Okay, 1 second. Do you need a screen? You can move over. So you can move over to the screen. All right, thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
That's all right. Probable cause hearings.
We now have quorum for going forward.
Yes.
The next thing on the agenda is the probable cause hearing with Jesse Lacoste, doing business as Lacoste Construction Group LLC, state registered license RG 2911033980. The complaint number is 2208115. This is regarding Charles and Tony Spatch, the homeowner and complainant, 615 Crown Cove, Pensacola, Florida, 32502. This is within the city limits. Are the Spatches present? Okay. If you could come up and just sit in the front row there. I'm going to go ahead and have the court reporter swear in all the witnesses.
Sounds good.
Okay. Regine. For all cases or just for this case?
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes.
I swear.
Thank you.
For the record, we went ahead and swore in the investigator as well as the Spatches. Please state your name for the record.
Melissa Reber.
And what is your position here?
I'm the licensing and unpermitted investigator.
All right, and have you had an opportunity to conduct an investigation into the complaint which we discussed, which was just placed on the record?
Yes, I have.
All right, and can you please tell the board what items you took into your investigation for consideration?
The Spatches entered a signed complaint form against Jesse Lacoste.
And for the record, that's on the screen before you. Go ahead.
The Spatches provided an accounting of the
I'll do this for you. Okay.
the Spatches provided an accounting of their dealings with Mr. Lacoste.
Did they also provide an assignment of benefits copy?
Yes, they did.
All right, and did they provide a proof of payment?
Yes, they did.
Did they also provide a scope of work,
Yes, they did.
scope remaining,
Yes, they did.
the breakdown of payments for insurance redacted?
That's correct. They
Any
did.
communications they had with Mr. Lacoste Insurance regarding performance?
Yes, they did.
Did they provide a demand letter which they sent to Mr. Lacoste?
Yes.
And a summary of the payment
Yes,
and also photographs?
that's correct.
And have you prepared a report that include all those items?
Yes, I have.
And is that the report that is located under 8.1 on the agenda items?
That is correct.
We'd ask that this be moved into evidence.
Can I have a motion to move the report into evidence?
Motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
If we could, also, I don't recall if I called it off, but the investigative report that was prepared by Ms. Reber, if that could also be moved into evidence.
Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
With liberty of the court, I would ask Ms. Reber to of the board, I would ask Ms. Reber to relate to the board her findings based on the evidence she took in.
Thank you.
And you're just gonna go into your, if you could just give us what the violations were that you found based on the evidence you found.
Board, based on the investigation and evidence of this complaint, I find alleged violations of 1837C8, termination of a construction project in which the contractor is engaged or under contract to shall be considered to have been abandoned after 90 days if the contractor terminates said project without notification to the prospective owner and without just cause for such abandonment. 1837D9J, failure to notify residential property owner of recovery fund, Florida Statute 489-119 as amended. 1837C11, finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency, or misconduct in the practice of contracting.
Thank you. If you would please remain, I may have some questions for you later. If we could call the dispatches.
Okay, with whoever would like to speak for the dispatches. Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Tony Spatch, my husband Charles Spatch. We have our home at 615 Crown Cove in Pensacola, 32502. And right now, we're still residing in a rental because we cannot get back in our home yet. Our story is so similar to every other story that has presented about Lacoste. We hired him at the recommendation of a neighbor, and he seemed very likable at the time we hired him. We signed the assignment of benefits. Before we signed the assignment of benefits, Jesse had advised us to seek help from Noble Public Adjusting, which I'm sure goes along with other stories that you hear. He said by doing this, we could get more money from the insurance company, enough to finish our project. Little work was done. It's probably all in Melissa's report. We could not get information from Jesse's office about the amount of money he might have said he spent, but from his previous employees, we were led to find out that he probably got no more than $20,000 worth of work done at our house. We got payments from the insurance company, and I'm sure Melissa included it in her report there. So far, if you take what they paid totally, and we got that summary in August of this year, Jesse has $102,274 that he has taken without doing that amount of work.
Okay.
Now, we feel that he did commit fraud against us, and more importantly, against the insurance company. Misuse of funds, accepting funds from our insurance company without doing the work he promised. We feel there was gross negligence and abandonment. There was certainly a lack of competency of the contractor. We were lied to, and we were told repeatedly that the delays in our project were caused by the 3 sliding glass doors in our house not being able to be delivered. Later, we found out the doors were never ordered. So, actually, that's it. I mean, you know, we just are still out, so.
Okay.
We appreciate y'all listening to us and appreciate your help.
Well, we would like the report, the items in the report, you did submit those to,
Yes.
just to confirm that.
Yes, yes,
And-
the insurance report, the summary, yes.
And
She
how
has a
much
copy.
and confirm restitution amount that you're looking for?
102,000.
274.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, for all your help.
Yes, do you have questions?
I just have a quick question.
Okay.
Did you have an opportunity you heard the list of items that were read off by Ms. Reber. Are those the items that you provided?
Yes.
Okay, so you had an opportunity to review those, and the photographs were photographs
Yes.
that you took of your
Yes.
house?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have them
You have copies of them yourself.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
We just need to clarify on 1837D9, there's a failure to notify residential property owner of recovery fund. Go back to the items that were provided, and then contractor company, it's not gonna be that. Within those exhibits, there's not a copy of the contract, so as to the count 2, which is the failure to notify residential property owner, we don't have the evidence to support that, so you would be looking at counts 1 and 3, which is the termination of a construction project and the finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud.
That's what
For,
we need-
going forward, we can try to get you a copy of that contract, but as far as probable cause, those would be the only 2 items that we have evidence to support.
So we need a motion to take this to disciplinary hearing based on those 2 counts.
Yes, sir.
Can I get a motion to move to disciplinary for the alleged violation 18, the 1 and the 2, termination of a construction project and finding that the contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit?
I'll make a motion to follow that, the investigative report, alleged violations, items 1 and 3.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Do we need to read in the restitution request amount into that motion, or just wait till the disciplinary hearing?
It'll be handled at the disciplinary hearing. They have already been sworn and made the statement, and in the disciplinary hearing, we can take all the exhibits and all the testimony that's already been given and be considered in the disciplinary hearing.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is Roman numeral 2, Matthew S. Banks, doing business as Banks Construction LLC, state registered license number RR 282812001. The complaint number is 220692. The homeowner complainant in this case is April Gunnell, 712 Whitney Drive, Pensacola, Florida, 32503 in the city limits. Is Ms. Gunnell present? Okay, if you could please come up front. I would remind Ms. Reber that she's still under oath, but if we could have Ms. Gunnell sworn in.
Yes, and anybody else that would like to speak on behalf of this case, if they could also be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Ms. Reber, did you have the opportunity to conduct an investigation into a complaint that you received from Ms. Gunnell?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and what documents did you take into your custody and able to conduct that investigation?
I took in a complaint form filed by Ms. Gunnell.
I'm sorry, that are linked.
Incorrectly.
We'll start with your investigative report. We'll have to scroll through those.
After doing this investigation, the alleged violations are 1837C8, termination of a construction project in which the contractor is engaged or under contract to shall be considered to have been abandoned after 90 days if the contractor terminates said project without notification to the prospective owner and without just cause for such abandonment. Finding that the contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency, or misconduct in the practice of contracting. Florida Statute 489, 126, 2A1. Apply for permits necessary to do work within 30 days after the date payment is made, except where the work does not require a permit under the applicable codes and ordinances. 1837D9J, failure to notify residential property owner of recovery fund. Florida Statute 489, 119, as amended.
For the record, I just wanted to make sure the board had seen, and I apologize, I didn't bring it to your attention before. The notice of probable cause was sent to Mr. Lacoste on the previous case, and we do have that in the records, and we have a certified return receipt. Notice was sent to Lacoste, and in this case, notice of probable cause was sent on to Mr. Banks on September 7th, to make sure you know that that is in the record, and that requirement of notice has been provided. Moving on, I'm sorry, with the testimony, it appears that the complaint was not included in this, so when we call Ms. Gunn, we'll ask her about her complaint that she filed. But we can move on to the exhibits that were taken in by Investigator Reaver. Go ahead.
Ms. Gunnell provided the contract between her and Banks Construction, which was signed on April 16th, 2021. The total amount of the contract was $35,300, in which Ms. Gunnell made a down payment of $17,650.
So this is the proof of payment, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. For the record, it's a check that's been signed.
Ms. Gunnell did send a demand letter. Which was delivered to Mr. Banks.
And are these photos that were provided by Ms. Gunnell?
Yes, they were.
You can just scroll through those, please. With the exception of the actual written complaint, are these all the items that you provided and you reviewed for your purposes in your investigation?
Yes, they are.
And based on these documents, you were able to reach a determination as to those alleged violations you listed earlier?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and you're now submitting that to the board for their consideration?
Yes, I am.
We would ask that these be moved into evidence.
Can I get a motion to move the items into evidence?
Motion to move the items into evidence.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
If we could call Ms. Gunnell to testify, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Ms. Gunnell. We apologize that we didn't have your complaint in our packet. Could you please tell the court, please tell the board about the complaint that you filed in this case?
I filed a complaint on, I put that away so I don't know the exact date, but I filed a complaint stating that Matthew Banks had failed to complete the work that I paid for on my property. Basically, he started, we went into contract in April of '21, and then he gave me a start date of August. August came, he applied for a permit without framing on my property at that time. We did not actually hear or see, just kept saying, pushing back the date, pushing back the date. He did not start anything until December 6th, which was over that limitations on that permit. He took out my functioning kitchen on December 6th, and then basically just sent someone out every now and then to come and do just a little bit of demo, a little bit of demo, a little bit of demo here, just to kind of, because we're trying to move it along and get things going. We basically were under demo for probably a good 6 months. And I have a small, tiny galley kitchen, as you can see. Then in, I believe it was April, he had somebody come out and install electrics. And at that time, I called the city office and inquired about the permit that was on the property and found out that he had yet to pay for the permit to do the work. Yet they went ahead and put in the majority of the electrics without hooking it up. It was unfinished at that time, and I was assured by Angela Lacoste in the office that they were going to be getting that permit paid for to push us through inspection. A month later, they still had yet to do that. I got to know the people down at the city permit office very well, and to this day, they never paid for that permit. So here I am I took on the permit myself so I could actually get the electrics pushed through, so.
Let me show you what's up on the screen. Is that your kitchen?
Yes.
All right, and if you could walk the board through what's going on in this photograph.
Okay, well, that's when they came in and dismantled everything in my kitchen on December 6th,
Okay.
21. This is what we were left with pretty much for months of just somebody coming out and doing demo with no tools and nothing to actually like remove it from the property. And still living in a demo.
Please speak up for me.
Oh, sorry, still living in demo.
Okay.
I mean, this is all just basically showing what we lived with for probably about 8 months of work being done. This is where when they moved my refrigerator, they destroyed the seal on it, and so now it's not working properly. They actually there was a part of the subfloor that actually needed to be redone, so they started trying to remove it, and in doing so, they actually cut through the actual existing floor completely. So now we're gonna have to redo the entire flooring in that section of the kitchen. And that's just showing basically that you're going straight through. These are the electrics that were installed without permit. And just continued showing the electrics.
I'm sorry.
Continuing showing the electrics.
And I apologize, I have been in the same position where I didn't speak loud enough for a court reporter. So I'm used to her saying that, but you just kind of have to remember to lean in, and we apologize for that. We know you're going through enough. What's going on here in this photograph?
Oh, that's just showing where the electrics were taken out through into the utility room and had to go through the wiring, but it's not connected.
Okay. Okay, and have you had an opportunity to have any of this work corrected since then?
Well, we're working on it right now.
Okay.
I'm in the process. Of course, I, don't have the money that I did to begin with, so I've now taken over the permit myself, and I have a new GC that's actually getting the work looked at, finished, and then being pushed through to inspection.
Okay. Do you have an amount of what your total expenditure was to him?
My expenditure to Matthew Banks?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I apologize.
What's the 17, what did Melissa say? It was 17,000, let's go back through this, $17,650. And I've estimated that the amount of work that he did was, I'm being generous, asking for restitution of 16 grand.
You're asking for 16,000?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I don't have any other questions. Does the board have any questions for her?
Any questions? I don't believe so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just so you know, we have gotten a copy of the complaint. We're making copies of that right now, and we're going to hand that out to the board, and then we will also put it up on the, in the minutes for the next meeting so that it will be available to the public.
Okay.
Okay. And if you'll just give us a moment to get those copies back. You have her sworn statement, and you could rely on that in determining probable cause. And this other item, I believe we've already moved all those other items, so we'll have to move that one item into evidence if you just want to wait a moment, and then we'll
Okay.
go ahead and do that. For the record, right now, we're reviewing the hard copy against what we have for the next speaker, for the next complaint. So we're reviewing the hard copy to make sure we have all the items linked up properly. And if not, we'll be able to get copies of those.
Thank you very much.
Sure. For the record, while we wait, I've put up on the board the alleged violations. If the board would like to review those while, in this moment of silence, while we wait for these records to come back. Thank you.
In this case, do we have the residential property owner recovery fund information? Or is that going to need to be removed from the complaint? The violations?
No, that is accurate. That is not on his contract.
Okay, so we'll just
For
be
Matthew
1,
Banks.
2, and 3.
No, all alleged violations are accurate. He does not have that applicable.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're talking about the last one on here, the 1837 D9?
Yes,
Yes, that would be, that's correct. Banks does not include that, is what she's telling you. So it would be an account for the board to consider.
thank you.
Related to your question, I put up on the board what was previously marked as complaint, which we will insert a complaint in the future. But this is his contract. It's basically just an estimate. So you can see, and I can scroll through that for you so you can see that those items, there's no language in there.
We have a copy of the complaint. Do I need to have that a motion to put that a part of the record?
Yes.
If we can have a motion.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The document has been submitted. Thank you. Are we ready to move to recommendation for disciplinary hearing based on the 4 motions at this time?
Yes.
Can I get a motion?
I make a motion, we move this complaint to the disciplinary hearing, and based on the investigative report and the alleged violations cited therein.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item, excuse me, the next item is number 3. It's Matthew Banks doing business as Banks Construction LLC, state registered license number, if you can hold it still, 28281120001. The complaint number is 2208109. The complainant is Angela Barber, 4215 Baywoods Drive, Pensacola, Florida, 32504. Is Ms. Barber present? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Okay. If you would stand to be sworn in, please.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Is there anyone else that will be speaking on your case today? Thank you. I'll remind Ms. Reber that she is under oath, and if we could, if she would, she's not a, Jennifer is the one that sends out, Jennifer Hampton is the one that sends out the probable cause notices, but we do have access to those. If we could put those up on the board, up on the screen for the board. You'll notice that it went out on September 7th. It was sent, the next page will show that it was sent by certified mail. Notice. No, the next one. No, the next one. There we go. There we go. So that's the certified mail receipt, so notice has been sent. We'll go ahead and have Ms. Reber testify to her investigative report and the items that she took into custody.
Thank you.
After my investigation, it is alleged that there is a violation of 1837C8, termination of a construction project in which the contractor is engaged or under contract to shall be considered to have been abandoned after 90 days if the contractor terminates said project without notification to the prospective owner and without just cause for such abandonment. 1837C11, finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency, or misconduct in the practice of contracting. Florida Statute 489, 126(2)A. 1, apply for permits necessary to do work within 30 days after the date payment is made, except where the work does not require a permit under the applicable codes and ordinances. 1837D9J, failure to notify residential property owner of recovery fund, Florida Statute 489.119 as amended.
Thank you.
During your investigation, did you take into custody a contractor complaint form?
Yes, I did.
And that item was signed and dated June 28th, 2022?
Yes, it was.
All right. And what other documents were provided to you by Ms. Barber?
Ms. Barber provided a copy of the contract between her and Mr. Banks, which were signed and dated it's like approximately 9/22/21.
Did she also provide a proof of
payment? She
payment?
did.
Thank you. And that, I'm sorry, what was the amount on that proof of payment?
$42,250.
Did she also send a certified letter to Mr. Banks?
She did.
Is that the demand letter in our packet?
Yes.
Okay, and that's before the board now. It's dated July 13th, 2022. We'd ask the board that these items be moved into evidence and allow Ms. Reber to testify from them.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to move them into evidence. Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any, I'm sorry, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Ms. Reber, based on your investigation, what were you able to obtain from the documents provided as far as the count one, which was the termination of a construction project.
Mr. Banks basically did very little, did some demolition, started the project late, did a little bit of demolition, and basically abandoned the project after that. Has since not been back to do any work or had any communication with Ms. Barber.
Did he apply for the necessary permits to do work within 30 days after the date that the payment was made?
No, he did not.
Okay. And within his contract, is there a notice of the residential property of the residential property owner of the recovery fund?
No, there is not.
All right. Thank you. I have no further questions for Ms. Reber. Does the board have any questions for her?
Do not, thank you.
All right. If we could have the complainant come forward, Ms. Barber. If you wouldn't mind, could you please spell your last name when you announce yourself?
The name's Angela Barber, B-A-R-B-O-U-R.
Thank
I
you.
live at 4215 Baywoods Drive, Pensacola, Florida, 32504.
Now, you had an opportunity to review the documents as, that she put up on the board?
Yes.
Okay. And those are the documents that you sent in?
Yes.
All right. And could you please tell the board a little bit about the condition that, and what has happened at your home since Mr. Banks became involved with the contract?
He tore off my old back porch in January of this year and poured concrete for the new one, and that was it.
Okay. How much funds did you give him for that?
$42,250.
Has he given you any refunds?
No.
All right. Have you had that work completed by anyone else?
No.
Okay. Is there anything you want the board to know? I see you have some paperwork in front of you.
Yeah, just because it's been a while, so I wanted to bring it back up to the forefront. Matt Banks stole $40,000 from me. I took off $2,250, which is a generous and fair amount for removing the old deck and pouring the concrete. It's very small. He took my check, and that's the last time I saw him, 1 year ago tomorrow. Matt Banks abandoned my project. He pulled no permits. I requested a schedule from my alleged project manager and never received one. I only received a lot of excuses, a severe lack of communication, and delay after delay. We kept waiting, and he continued to not show up. My husband and I were trying to renovate and repair our home of 28 years after raising 3 children and paying for college for the last time before we retire on a fixed income. We've been making payments on a home mortgage loan for over a year now, but our home is still in the same condition. And thanks to Matt Banks, we only have half the money now to do all that was needed to our home. So I'm asking to progress to a disciplinary hearing and then to a restitution hearing. I want to complete the steps, even though it is highly doubtful that I will ever be able to get any of my money returned. Thank you.
And what was the total amount? Is it the total amount of the check for the restitution?
The total amount of the renovations that he was gonna do?
The total amount that you've paid?
Oh, I paid $42,250.
So we can rely on the amount on the check.
Right.
Thank you.
So I think she was asking for 40,000.
For restitution, you're asking for the full amount, or you're asking for the 40,000?
The 40.
Okay. And do you know if any permits were, have you had that inspected at all, the concrete he did pour?
No, he didn't pull any permits.
Okay, and there's been no subsequent inspections?
No.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions unless the board has any questions.
Any questions? If not, can I get a motion to move it to disciplinary hearing based on the counts provided?
I make a motion to move the alleged violations into disciplinary hearing on this case number.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is Matthew S. Banks doing business as Banks Construction LLC, state registered license RR 282812001, complaint number 2208110. The complainants in this case, homeowners, are John and Robbie Reddert, 2331 Lansing Drive, Pensacola, Florida, 32504. Are the Redderts present? Hi. If you could come up to the front row, that would be great. And announce your name for the record and be sworn in, please. You don't have to come to the podium yet. You can rest at that front row.
My name is Robin Redder.
Okay.
Would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
And I apologize. Did you say Robin?
Robbie, R-O-B-B-I-E.
Okay. Want to make sure I had it right in my records as well. Thank you. If you'll just have a seat, it'll be just a moment. Can you pull up yeah, you got the notice. Okay, for the record, before the board is the notice that was sent out on September 7th, 2022 of the probable cause hearing. It was sent out, certified mail return receipt requested, and that is also before the board. We'd like to ask Ms. Reber some questions. Ms. Reber, please, did you receive a complaint from the Redderts regarding this case?
Yes, I did.
All right. What other items did you receive?
I received a copy of the contract, proof of payments, numerous communication between the parties, the Reddit's demand letter, a recap by the Reddit's of work Banks completed and uncompleted work, also the Reddit's accounting of the project. There was a permit pulled in the city, and then photos of the property.
Based on the review of the items that you received, did you make a determination as to alleged violations?
Yes, I did.
And for the record, that is on the screens before the board now. If you could read those into the record.
After investigation, it was alleged that there's violations of 1837 C8, termination of a construction project in which the contractor is engaged or under contract to shall be considered to have been abandoned after 90 days if the contractor terminates said project without notification to the prospective owner and without just cause for such abandonment. 1837 C11, finding that the contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency or misconduct in the practice of contracting. Florida Statute 489-126-2A1, apply for permits necessary to do the work within 30 days after the date payment is made, except where the work does not require a permit under the applicable codes and ordinances. 1837 D9J, failure to notify residential property owner of recovery fund, FS 489.119 as amended.
Can I draw your attention to your report where you talk about, it'll be on the second page of your report. All right, and it says in there, the Reddit stated that during the course, could you explain to the board the progression of the work that was done in this case, including the payments?
Yes,
Sorry, it's gotten away from you.
The Reddit state that Banks did not commence work, that the contract was signed in 2019, but Banks did not commence any work until March 3rd of 2022. The Reddit state that during that course of work, Banks was issued draws April 23rd, 2020, a payment of $7,000 on August 12th, 2020. Reddit's issued a payment of $41,362.50, and on December 16th, 2020, Reddit's issued another payment of $3,000. At the initial signing of the contract, On December 27th, 2019, the Reddits issued a deposit of $75,225, which was half of their $167,950 contract. The Reddits indicated that the work became very inconsistent beginning around May of 2021. Several delays and missed scheduled work days. That continued on through the project and through all of the communication. On October 14th, Banks and the Reddits met, with Banks allegedly promising them that he could complete the project in 60 days and was asking for an additional draw of $20,000. The Reddit stated that they felt that he would get the work done. Therefore, they did issue him another check for $20,000. The work did not progress along, and on July 18th, 2022, the Reddits did send a demand letter terminating the contract and requesting a refund of $18,450. When I reviewed the permitting on the project, this is city permits, although Banks did obtain a permit in August 2nd of 2020. It was past the 30 days, and that permit has since expired.
We ask that these exhibits be moved into evidence.
Have a motion, please?
Motion to move them into evidence.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I have no other questions for Ms. Reaver. If the board has any questions for her. Ms. Reddert, would you like to come forward?
My name is Robbie Reddert, 2331 Lansing Drive, Pensacola, Florida. Everything Ms. Reaver said is true, and I have one correction. We're asking for $81,450 back and not $18,000, because he's done some of the work. He has not done as much work as what money we've paid him. The total contract was $167,950. We've paid him $146,587.50, and we are requesting $81,450 for what still needs to be done. Not 18, but 81. And we live in the city, and that's not listed on the agenda here. I don't know if that's important to know, but we signed this contract in December of 2019. Our house was hit by lightning, excuse me, 6 years ago. It took 3 years to get the money out of the insurance company. And then we signed a contract with Banks December 2019, almost 3 years ago, and our house still isn't finished. We've been extremely patient and contacting, and then it was where we couldn't contact him, but he would have someone else that works for him to be our contact person. And the last communications that we had before we filed the complaint, we asked about the electrician, get him on out here. And what we were told in an email is that they give the electrician a list of jobs or locations to go work at for the day. And then ours has been delayed over and over and over because he's working on other people's projects. And to me, that's a dumb way to run a company, to give us your subcontractor a list. Okay, you can go to pick 4 of these people off of a list of 10 and go do their work. The other ones, you know, but that's a really dumb way to run a company. Nothing gets finished properly, as everyone can see. But we, you know, almost 6 years out of our house. He did do some of the work. They did, they demoed the fire damage. They laid a new foundation, and they did the roof and plumbing, which was to a washing machine and 2 outside faucets. No bathroom or kitchen plumbing was needed. They did the framing and the siding, the doors and windows. These are things that still are not done. Spray foam insulation in the ceiling and the, we had paid for the spray foam insulation in the ceiling and the walls for the new part of the house, but we've just gonna get the bats in the walls and just spray foam in the ceiling. Finish the ductwork and install 2 AC units. Upgrade the old part of the house to code for electrical if it needs to be done. Finish electrical on the new part of the house. Put in sheetrock in the new part of the house. Also in the kitchen and living room in the old part of the house where the fire damage, the smoke damage, and paint it. Put plywood up on the ceiling in the kitchen where they removed it. Repair cracks on the concrete floor in the new part of the house. Realign the doors so they close properly. Seal up doors so there's no cracks. Install interior new doors to match existing house. Carpet the whole house, the old and new parts. Install builder grade light fixtures. Trim and paint. Existing home not damaged by fire to receive cleaning and fresh paint. And remove pile of broken up concrete in the yard. That's what he said he'd do, and he hasn't done it.
Ms. Reddick, on the board, if you look up on the TV there, you'll see that I have pulled up, is this the list, the first list that you read off, about the things that were completed? And then if we turn that page over, the back side of it shows the items that were not completed.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's your handwriting, or that's your document, correct?
Yes, ma'am, because I've got it right here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask you a quick question. I think we transposed a number in our calculations. So that number that's there at the bottom, the $81,450, that's the correct amount?
That's what we're estimating still needs to be done. My husband has been a mechanical contractor all of his life, and he, he put these numbers down, and it's probably a low number, but with all the things that still has not been done. But that's a rough estimate of what he said he would do that he didn't do that we've paid for.
All right. So the $81,450, that's what you would be asking for in restitution?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Can we? When he picked up that $20,000, it looks like October 14th of 2021, was there any work completed after that?
No, ma'am, he told us he wanted $20,000 more, and I said, how long before our house is finished? And he said 60 days. And we trusted him, and he has not come back, and nobody has come back to do anything since then.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions. If the board has any questions for Ms. Reddick?
We don't have any questions. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
We're ready to move this to motion for disciplinary hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can,
Apologize.
can I get a motion for the alleged violations to move to disciplinary hearing?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is Matthew S. Banks, doing business as Banks Construction LLC, State Registered License RR 282812001, complaint number 2208111. I'm reading off the right, okay. The complainants are Timothy and Vicky Nagel, 2110 Carlberg Drive, Pensacola, Florida. Are the Nagels present? If you could please come up to the front row. And if you would stand for a moment to be sworn in if you're going to testify.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Do you have anyone else that's going to testify on your behalf?
No.
Thank you. You can just have a seat and we'll move forward. For the record, Jennifer Hampton did send out the notice of probable cause hearing to Matthew Banks on September 7th, 2022. And the certified mail receipt is on the board before you now. We call Ms. Reber. Ms. Reber, did you receive a complaint from the Nagels?
Yes, I did.
And did you have an opportunity to investigate that complaint?
Yes, I did.
Did you take any documents into evidence from the Nagels?
I did.
Okay.
I took a complaint form, a copy of the contract between Banks and the Nagels, proof of payment, communication between the parties, a demand letter, and a copy of the complaint that the Nagels filed with the Department of Agriculture.
Based on your review of the records that you received, were you able to reach a conclusion as to alleged violations?
Yes, I was. After my investigation, it's alleged that he violated 1837C11, finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency or misconduct in the practice of contracting. Florida Statute 489-126-2A1, apply for permits necessary to do work within 30 days after the date payment is made, except where the work does not require a permit under applicable codes and ordinances. 1837D9J, failure to notify residential property owner of recovery fund, Florida Statute 489-119 as amended.
Mr. Chairman, we ask that her report along with the items that she collected be placed into evidence.
Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
You have that?
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Ms. Reber, on November 22nd, 2021, there was, I apologize, in the initial contract, it was for $423,750?
That's correct.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The Nagels contracted for a new home build.
Okay, and they paid an initial deposit of $105,973.50?
That is correct.
They said they paid another, on November 22nd, 2021, they paid another $5,750?
Yes, they did.
And then according to the Nagels, on March 15th, 2022, some land clearing began but was never completed?
Yes, that is correct.
They sent a demand letter on June 16th, 2022?
That is correct.
Were any permits ever issued for this, for Mr. Banks to do this project?
Permits were not issued. Mr. Banks actually applied for a land clearing permit with our department, but that was rejected because in order to obtain a land clearing permit, he would have needed to submit plans for the project that he was clearing the land for, and he had not done that.
Thank you. Can you pull up the complaint? I have no further questions for Ms. Reber. If the Nagels would like to come forward? Or if the board has questions for Ms. Reber?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Vicki Nagel. This is my husband, Tim Nagel. The property address is, the lot property address is 2110 Carlberg Drive, Pensacola, Florida, 32506. Our current home address is 32507 Maypole Road in Leonardtown, Maryland. So we've been traveling back and forth to try to resolve this issue with the build of our new home, which at this point will not happen. So our retirement plans have just been completely dashed by this man. So one thing I did want to bring up, since they did clear the lot without the permit, they felled the trees are still down. We got a notification from Florida Department of Environmental Protection that we had a tree dropped into the water, and because our lot is surrounded in certain spots with wetlands. So now we're getting some feedback from the DEP, and we have no idea how to resolve this because we don't have a permit to clear. So we're going to be walking across the hallway here to try to figure out how we get that resolved so we don't have penalties and fines from DEP. And we have, at this point, no further plans to continue building on this lot because we can't afford to. He's taken too much of our money. Let's see. We are asking for full restitution, the full amount, the $111,707.50, because we do not know if he has paid any of the sub-vendors that did some of the work on our lot. We don't know if Mr. Gay was paid for the lot clearing for what he did do. Tim Daniel for our plans, he was not fully paid. Biome that did the second environmental survey on our lot, we don't know if he was paid, and we had a perk test done, we don't know if that person was paid. So we want all of our money back if we could ever get it, because I'm pretty sure at some point we're going to have liens against our property for these folks coming back. So one thing I did want to say, everything that Melissa had reported is correct to both of our knowledge. Mr. Lister, I appreciate at the beginning of this meeting today that you offered up combining these two together. That would have been great for not only myself, but for the rest of the crowd here and all the other victims that are coming forward. It's plenty more than 50, so I would recommend that as soon as you can get those two things combined, do it, because it's stressful for all of us. We've lost a lot of money to this man, and we'll never see it. So whatever you can do to speed this process up, for I know a lot of these folks that have also lost money, would be appreciated. Thank you.
We'll be able to use the evidence that's been given today in the next hearing, so it will continue to expedite the process.
Okay.
We're following county rules, county ordinances to move these things along. But we will be able to use the information. If you're traveling back and forth, because you were sworn in today and you gave testimony, and these are the items that you provided to Ms. Reber, and you recognize them as we put them up on the board. Okay, and we can use those. They've moved them in evidence, so we'll be able to introduce them again in the next hearing, and that may keep you from having to travel for the next hearing. Let me make sure I have your calculation correct. It's $105,000.
$111,707.50.
707.50.
Yep. And I don't know what the process is, but I would like this case sent to the sheriff's department for what he's done. This is fraud, straight up. If he'd done this at a bank, he'd be in jail right now.
And if you can look up on the board, let me just make sure so we want to make sure we have this calculation correct. So there was an original payment of $105,937.50.
Yes,
And then there was an additional check, which we have, which was the,
$750.
5,750.
Yep.
Okay. That's what I wanted to make sure why we had you here. Thank you for your help.
Thank you.
Tim is here, and he's gonna help you across the hallway, okay? He's gonna help you get through what you need. If you can, I don't know if he's available right now. He usually stays for the whole meeting, so if you
We'll
can.
stay for the whole meeting.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. He's gonna help you out.
Thank you.
It's up to you. He can walk you over there now if you want to. Okay.
We're
We
ready to
have-
move forward?
We're ready to move forward.
Can I get a motion to take this to disciplinary hearing based on the alleged violations, the 3 that were provided?
I make a motion that we submit this for disciplinary hearing, case number 220811.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is Matthew S. Banks, doing business as Banks Construction LLC, state registered license RR 282812001. The complaint number is 2208112. The complainant homeowner in this case is Vance Fischel, 4103 Spinnaker Place, Pensacola, Florida 32507. Is Mr. Fischel present? Am I pronouncing your last name correct? Okay. If you could raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Besides yourself, is there anyone else here today? Thank you. We will call Ms. Reber. I'm sorry, let me go ahead while we're getting Ms. Reber set up with her exhibit up there. Let me go ahead and make sure the board is aware there was a notice of probable cause hearing sent out by Jennifer Hampton on September 7th. And there is a return receipt requested copy within the record. Ms. Reber, did you have the opportunity to conduct an investigation?
Yes, I did.
And in that investigation, were you able to make any determinations as to alleged violations?
Yes, I was.
What were those violations?
Florida Statute 489, 126, 2A1, apply for permits necessary to do work within 30 days after the date payment is made, except where the work does not require a permit under the applicable codes and ordinances. 1837C11, finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency, or misconduct in the practice of contracting. 1837D9J, failure to notify residential property owner of recovery fund, Florida Statute 489.119 as amended.
What documents did you take into your possession in order to reach these determinations?
I took a complaint form.
If you could put that up on the board.
Oh, sorry.
I apologize.
A complaint form from Mr. Fiscal, a copy of the contract between the parties, proof of payment. There were 3 payments made. And communication between the parties. There's several documents here.
Were you able to determine whether or not any permits had been pulled?
Yes, I was. There were no permitting pulled for this project.
Based on your conversations with Mr. Fischel, has any work been done on this?
He did have some work. I believe he had flooring was installed on or around April 12th of 2022. And I believe that's all of the work that was completed on the property.
And let me just clarify, the items that were going to be, the construction work that was to be done did require permitting?
It did.
Okay. That's fine. You don't have to look it up. Okay. I have no further questions for Ms. Reber.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Not at this time.
We would call Mr. Fischel.
Good morning.
Vance Fischel from 4103 Spinnaker Place in Pensacola, 32507. Just a brief accounting, everything that was stated was true and accurate. Floors were completed in the home, partial work on the ceilings and walls, but those were not completed, and some tiling in a bathroom. We had a livable home, unlike some of these poor folks. We had a livable home that we were just seeking to update. And after contracting with Matt Banks, he came in and they demoed and they made it unlivable. They removed water fixtures, they broke a pipe and left it leaking. It took 3 days to get someone to come fix the leaking pipe. So from the beginning, it was, this is kind of a broken record, I know for y'all, but from the beginning, it was very difficult to get anyone to come and do any work. The one subcontractor that did tiling was seeking payment from me because of lack of payment from Banks Construction. And in my final conversation with Matt Banks, which is at the beginning of July, I asked him for $11,000 back, which was my last payment to him, which was a very generous offer on my part. It still would have left me, it would have left him owing, but I just, at that point, wanted to recover enough money to be able to put the house back together and make it livable. At that point on the telephone, he told me that he did not have laborers that he personally employed that he could send, and that he did not have any of my money because he had given it to subcontractors who, in his words, didn't show up, and that was out of his control. So he felt he was no longer responsible. He had passed my money to subcontractors who chose not to show up. He didn't name any subcontractors, and I've never had them. No additional work has ever been done on my property. I'm seeking an order of restitution, of course.
The restitution that you're requesting, do you have a total on that, or is that based on the 3 checks that we found were provided by you, the 3
No,
payments?
based on the partial work that was completed, I would like to seek restitution of $15,000.
It appears to me you paid out $35,939. Is that a correct amount?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
On a $41,000 contract.
okay. And just, I'm asking that because we're relying on my math. So I want to follow up with you on that. And so at this time, for the restitution, you're seeking how much?
$15,000.
Okay, and if the board were to award more than that, you would not have an objection?
I would not. I'm a realist. I'm not an optimist. I know I won't be getting anything back from this. But I am just trying, I've done what work I can myself, none that requires permitting, but just to put my house back together. And there is work that's left to be done that was never started, so anything I can get back, I can finish my project.
Okay, do you have, aside from those items, can you tell us when was the last time that you recall that you had communication with Banks where something actually occurred after that communication, where you actually did anything?
Any work done? Maybe perhaps in May. There was a subcontractor that came in to do the last work that was done. That was some tiling in the bathroom. And he finished up, and the last conversation I had with Matt Banks was in July, the
Okay.
beginning of July, and no work happened after that. So I'm trying to remember, I believe it was probably May, with work happening in June,
Okay,
partial work on a project.
that's sufficient. I just needed to make sure I had looked at your notes, and I wanted to make sure that we had nothing since July then.
No work since July, and that's, it's outlined in the communications. It can be pieced together to see when he actually came last.
And up on the board, we have the beginning of your communications. Is that the emails that you submitted?
Yes, these are emails between Matt and I through their application. They have an app that they want you to communicate through, which I've since found out they can go in and remove certain pieces of communication, which they have done. And they've also, I know, just in listening to conversations of other victims, some people have been completely blocked from the application, so they cannot retrieve their communication.
So the contractor wants you to use an app that they have on their website?
They have an application that they have you sign up for, and then that's where they prefer all the communication happens.
All right, are there any finances involved in signing up for that app?
No, there's not.
Okay. And then as you explained to me there, that they can remove items to your
They
knowledge?
can remove items, and you also receive your invoices through there, and I requested schedules and invoices constantly from Matt Banks, and I never received reliable information back.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness. If the board has any questions?
No, thank you very much. We ready to move to a motion for disciplinary hearing? Can I get a motion to disciplinary hearing based on the alleged violations in the complaint?
I move we move to the disciplinary hearing on case number 2208128 based on the alleged violations.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, we're, I believe, up to Roman numeral number 7. Matthew S. Banks, doing business as Banks Construction, state registered license RR 2828120001. The CCB number is 2208113. The homeowner complainant is Mark Haberly, 206 North G Street, Pensacola, Florida 32501. Is Mr. Haberly present? Or Haber? Haberle? The homeowner complainant is not present, but if we could move to testimony by Ms. Reber. I would make the board aware there was probable cause notice sent out to Mr. Banks on September 7th, 2022. And it was return receipt requested, and that is included in the packet and on the board before the board. We'd call Ms. Reber. Ms. Reber, did you have the opportunity to conduct an investigation?
Yes, I did.
All right, and in that, was it based on a complaint that you had received from Mr. Haberly?
Yes, it was.
And did you have an opportunity to ask him how to pronounce his name?
I believe that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Did he provide you with any documentation?
He did. He provided a copy of a complaint form, a copy of the contract between the parties, proof of payment, correspondence between the parties, and a demand letter.
All right, since Mr. Haberly is not present, we're going to walk through the documents a little more detailed. If you could just bring up the first document, which is the complaint. So based on the complaint Mr. Haberly signed, it says no work was performed and deposit wasn't returned?
That is correct.
And is that based on, did you have conversations with Mr. Haberly regarding that?
I did.
And he confirmed that?
Yes, he did.
All right, and did he confirm how much money he expended to Mr. Banks?
Yes, the total amount of the contract was $13,480. Mr. Haberly paid a deposit of $6,740.
All right, and I apologize, I jumped right into the paperwork, and we did not review the alleged violations. What were the alleged violations in this case?
Alleged violations are 1837C8, termination of a construction project in which the contractor is engaged or under contract who shall be considered to have been abandoned after 90 days. If the contractor terminates said project without notification to the prospective owner and without just cause for such abandonment. 1837C11, finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency or misconduct in the practice of contracting. Florida Statute 489-126-2A1, apply for permits necessary to do work within 30 days after the date payment is made, except where the work does not require a permit under the applicable codes and ordinances. 1837D9J, failure to notify residential property owner of recovery fund, Florida Statute 489.119 as amended.
All right, so we'll just back up now and go into the facts now that we know the allegations. I apologize for that. We've already, if you bring up the complaint form, according to the signed complaint form that was provided by Mr. Haberly on July 7th of 2022, was any work performed?
No, there was not.
Was the deposit returned?
No, it was not.
Does the form also tell us what the deposit was, or is that within the documents he provided?
It's in the documentation that he provided. They entered into contract on February 21st of 2022.
All right, and on the, looking at the contract itself, it shows that originally there was an amount of $13,480. Apologize.
That was the total cost of the contract.
All right, and there was a proof of payment?
Yes, Mr. Haberly did make a deposit, $6,740 on February 21st, 2022.
All right, and based on your there was also conversations, it appears to be on text messaging?
I believe maybe some of this may be Bank's Builder Trend portal.
Okay.
And may have some other text messages.
Was any information in there regarding communication that any work had been done?
No, there was not.
And was a demand letter sent for the return of the deposit on the contract?
Yes, there was.
Okay, and that Mr. Haberly also provided with that certified mail receipt?
He did.
All right. And did you have any items in this contract required a permit?
It did for the roof reconstruction. This property is located in the city, and there were no permits applied for or issued, obviously.
And within your review of the contract, was there any notification of the recovery fund?
There was not.
And I apologize. Did we already move these into evidence? If not, we'd like to do so at this time.
Can I get a motion?
Motion to move into evidence.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I appreciate that. For the record, those were all the documents on the agenda and items that she testified to. I apologize for not clarifying that on the record. We have no further questions from Ms. Reber. If the board has any questions.
If no questions from the board, can I get a motion to move this to disciplinary hearing based on the alleged violations?
I'll make a motion to move it to disciplinary hearing based on the investigative report and alleged violations.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is 8.8. Do we have Mr. Bassett present? Matthew S. Banks, doing business as Banks Construction LLC, state registered license RR2828120001, complaint number 2208128. Complainant homeowner Lowell Bassett, 1746 East Moreno Street, Pensacola, Florida. Mr. Bassett is president. If you would stand to be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
We'd like to take testimony from Ms. Reber. Ms. Reber, did you have an opportunity to conduct an investigation regarding this?
Yes, I did.
And I apologize, I keep getting ahead of this. There is notice of probable cause hearing within the document. She has it up on the screen for you within the document, September 7th, 2022. And there's also a copy of a certified mail receipt. That's in front of the screen for you now, and then we'll turn to the questioning of Ms. Reber. Ms. Reber, how many documents, or what documents did you take into custody in making a determination as to alleged violations?
Mr. Bassett submitted a signed complaint form, a copy of the contract between the parties, proof of payment, and a demand letter.
And based on your review of those items, did you also have conversations with Mr. Bassett?
Yes, I did.
And based on that, the whole package, did you make a determination as to possible violations?
Yes, I did. Alleged that violations of 1837C8, termination of a construction project in which the contractor is engaged or under contract to shall be considered to have been abandoned after 90 days if the contractor terminates said project without notification to the prospective owner and without just cause for such abandonment. 1837C11, finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency, or misconduct in the practice of contracting. Florida Statute 489.126(2)(a). 11, apply for permits necessary, that's one.
Okay.
Apply for permits necessary to do work within 30 days after the date payment is made, except where the work does not require a permit under the applicable codes and ordinances. 1837D912, failure to notify residential property owner of recovery fund. Florida Statute 489.119 as amended.
If we could clarify, on the Florida statutes 489.126(2)(a), you corrected yourself to say that's 2A1?
That's correct.
And then on 1837D9, I believe on the record you say 12, but you meant J, is that correct?
I'm sorry, yes, that is correct.
Thank you. Did you have an opportunity to review the projects that were within the contract?
Yes, I did.
And were there any permits pulled for the projects?
There were no permits pulled. This was a garage conversion, which would have required permits.
Did you also have the opportunity to review the contract to see if there was any language in there regarding the residential property owner recovery fund?
No, there was not.
All right. Thank you. We ask that these items be moved into evidence.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to move into evidence, please.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Bassett, would you like to come forward? Put the complaint up on the board. Mr. Bassett is present. Would you like to tell some things to the board about what happened?
You pretty much covered it in your report. It was a much larger project than what we ended up putting down, I would say. And I have to thank my brother for this, so I owe him. But he actually did request 50%, like most of the other people, to be put down on a project that was about a $60,000 project. And when I countered with a 10% down on the advice of my brother, he countered back with, let's go 25% so I can earn your trust. And so, just so you know, he was pushing for the 50%, so it could have been a much larger amount that I was in for. This was a detached garage. This was a conversion, a potential place to live for family. And so it's a shame that it went down like this. I will say Matt Banks is a very confident person. He puts forth a very confident proposal. It's a shame this couldn't be a success story for his company. He had a lot of opportunities here, and it's sad that he took advantage of a lot of people. So, that being said, I'm out $14,362.50. I'm hoping that I can get an after the disciplinary hearing, an order of restitution, and so.
Up on the board, we have it looks like your check.
That's it.
And that was the one you used to give him the $14,000. Also, I see that you sent a letter demanding, you sent him a letter via certified mail. That's trying right. To recover those funds. Okay. It looks like also in your complaint form, there was some, you tried to communicate with him?
I did.
Do you want to tell the board about that?
I just, Again, he's quick to respond, at least to me, with communication, usually via text. Doesn't answer the phone much, but to yes sir, no sir, I mean, I've heard that from a lot of the clients that he's had, and that he would do action on it. Nothing ever happens. I had, the only time he ever actually came out was to look at the job the first time, and then to accept the check at his 9th Avenue location, which, like a bad movie, the last time I went past there was a different business, and so it's you know, again, kind of a sad story.
It appears that on September 28th, 2021 was when you made that $14,362 deposit.
That's correct.
All right, and then you had a December 2021 start date,
That's right.
and no work was completed,
No.
and
He
there's
said-
been no further work done.
No, he sent people out to look around. There were some people that were gonna try to draw up some plans. We ran that process, but it never got approved or anything like that, so.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Does the board have any questions?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your work, appreciate it.
Thank you. Are we ready to move, take a motion for disciplinary hearing?
Yes, sir.
Can I get a motion?
Motion that we move case number 2208128 to disciplinary hearing based on the alleged violations.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is 8.8. I'm sorry, 8.9. I was backing us up. I apologize. Brandy Banks. Okay. Matthew S. Banks, doing business as Banks Construction LLC, state registered license RR 282812001, complaint number 2208133. Homeowner complainant Brandy Banks, 3550 Molina Road, Molina, Florida, 32577. I see Ms. Banks is present. If you'd stand to be sworn.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Ms. Banks, do you have anyone else here that would be testifying on your behalf? Thank you. We would show the board the notice of probable cause that was sent out on September 7th, 2022 from Jennifer Hampton. And then secondly, we would put before the board that there was a certified mail receipt, return receipt requested. That's how it was sent. And then we'll move on to call Ms. Reber as a witness. Ms. Reber, did you receive any documentation from Ms. Banks?
I did. I received a complaint form, a copy of the contract between the parties, copy of the notice of commencement, proof of payment, communication between the parties, a demand letter, some correspondence from attorney that was no longer representing Mr. Banks. There was a notice of settlement, but that settlement was in default, and Ms. Banks did file a complaint with the Escambia County Sheriff's Office and provided that complaint information.
Based on your review of the records, were you able to reach a determination as to the violations that should be alleged against Mr. Banks?
Yes, I was. It's alleged violation 1837C8, termination of a construction project in which the contractor is engaged or under contract to shall be considered to have been abandoned after 90 days if the contractor terminates said project without notification to the prospective owner and without just cause for such abandonment. 1837C11, finding that the contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency or misconduct in the practice of contracting. Florida Statute 489-126, 2A. 1, apply for permits necessary to do work within 30 days after the date of the payment is made, except where the work does not require a permit under the applicable codes and ordinances. 1837D9J, failure to notify residential property owner of recovery fund, Florida Statute 489.119 as amended.
When you reviewed these documents, did you review the permitting history?
Yes, I did. A review of the permitting history shows that on September 14th, 2021, a permit was issued for a detached garage to Banks Construction. The permit was voided due to the revocation of the license by a Escambia County building official on August 19th, 2020.
Was she able to tell you if any work was ever performed?
Yes, there was no work performed.
And in the review of the contract, did you find where there was any information about the Florida Homeowners Construction Recovery Fund?
There was no information.
We'd like to move all of these documents into evidence.
Can I get a motion?
Motion to move them into evidence.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And for the record, I know the board, we've been doing this all day, so the board knows what I'm talking about, but for the record, the items that we were moving into evidence is all the reports that were reviewed by Ms. Reber and her investigative report.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What did the sheriff's report say? What was their response?
I had that same question. So when we have Ms. Banks come forward, we'll ask her that question. I just was making sure. I did look for the report, so I agree.
Okay.
We were going to go there. Thank you. Ms. Reber, was she able to tell you how much money she provided to Banks? Go ahead.
Yes, she was. The total amount of the work, this was going to be for a garage addition with a loft. The total contract amount was $89,450. Brandy Banks paid a deposit of $44,725 on February 13th, 2021.
And that's the check that's before the board?
That is correct.
And was she able to tell you if she recovered any of those funds?
She did not.
And also based on the information provided Ms. Banks, was any construction ever conducted?
No work was ever performed.
I don't have any other questions for Ms. Reber unless the board has questions.
No, ma'am.
We would call Ms. Banks.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ms. Banks, I know you've heard the testimony that's been given here. Are there things that you'd also like to let the board know?
Yes, I definitely agree with everything that's been shared and investigated by Ms. Reber, but I did want to take the opportunity just to, like others, kind of share the challenge that we've all, the angst and the pain that we've all been going through. So again, good morning. Brandy Banks, residing at 3550 Molino Road in Molino. I won't trouble you, board members, with a long account of my experience with Banks Construction. And by the way, let me say no affiliation, because I've had to answer to that many times over the last year, even with my community here. But thank you for allowing me to speak. To sum it up, I and my family, like many, have been swindled by Matt Banks. His smooth talking, manipulation, avoidance, and diversion tactics. For my family, this has resulted in a loss of payments in the amount of $44,725 directly paid to Banks, as well as legal fees and interest on a loan that if if something happens, and I default, I could now lose my home. The bottom line, Banks Construction, Matthew Banks himself, those employed by him who knowingly conspired, and anyone else that's associated, known or unknown, are no respecters of people. Young, elderly, black, white, military, and in between have been victimized by Banks Construction. I don't know about you, but to me, that is the equivalent of the worst type of criminal. No morals, values, or boundaries. Today, I simply implore that you, board members, take swift action for the countless victims that there's been and those that are still coming forward. Leverage all authority you have and support any possibility of blanket approvals, quick action. That way, as others have said, if there is an opportunity for any of us to salvage and rebuild, we're able to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Banks, I just want to clarify, no work was completed?
That is correct.
And the date, it appears from your statement that you contracted in February of 2021?
That is correct.
And there was, you entered into a payment agreement with him on April 2022?
Yes, for him to repay. That's correct.
And those payments were supposed to start in July of 2022?
Correct.
And there's been no repayments?
Correct.
And no work has been done?
Correct.
There was a question by the board earlier, and this is your decision whether or not you want to share it, what the status of your case is with the Sheriff's Department, but you do not have to share that information if you're
No,
not
that's
comfortable.
okay. So like many others that have filed, it has been turned over to investigation. I believe the investigator's name is Greg Johnson. So as far as we all have been updated, it is still underway.
That's the Department of Agriculture?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Investigator, okay. If the board has any further questions?
We do not.
We have no further witnesses. Thank you, Ms. Banks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
If it-
statement. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ready to move for motion for disciplinary hearing?
Yes, sir.
Can I get a motion?
I motion that we move case number 2208133 based on the alleged violations to disciplinary hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
We're ready to move on to 8.10. Matthew S. Banks, doing business as Banks Construction LLC, State Registered License RR 282812001, complaint number 2208138. Brandon Bonner, homeowner complainant, 250 East Johnson Avenue, Pensacola, Florida, 32514. Is Brandon Bonner present? If you could come up and sit up on the front row there. He's representing you. Okay. It's my understanding, Mr. Bonner, that you're represented? And your counsel is with you? Okay, so if there's any questions that you have or anything that you want to make sure that comes out for the board, just, you're an attorney, you know what to do. Okay, thank you. We have a probable cause notice of hearing that's going on that's on the board before the board. It went out on September 7th, 2022 by Jennifer Hampton. It was sent, return receipt requested to Mr. Banks. And that's before the board as well. At this time, we'd like to move into calling Ms. Reber. Ms. Reber, did you have the opportunity to conduct an investigation into case number 2208138?
I did.
And during your investigation, did you collect any documents?
Yes, I did. Mr. Bonner completed a complaint form, a copy of a contract between the parties, proof of payment, information on Banks subcontractors, some of who were not paid, claim of lien and subsequent payment of that lien by Mr. Bonner, and a demand letter.
And based on your review of the documents that provided, were you able to reach a determination as to alleged violations?
Yes, I was.
And what were those alleged violations?
Florida State Statute 489, 126-2A1, apply for permits necessary to do work within 30 days after the date payment is made, except where the work does not require a permit under the applicable codes and ordinances. 1837C6, financial mismanagement or misconduct in the practice of contracting that causes financial harm to a customer. 1837C11, finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency, or misconduct in the practice of contracting. 1837D9J, failure to notify residential property owner of recovery fund, Florida Statute 489.119 as amended.
We'd ask the items that were mentioned by Ms. Reber and that are part of the agenda, as well as her investigative report, be moved into evidence.
Do you have a motion?
Motion to move them into evidence.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Ms. Reber, did you have an opportunity to review those documents and make a determination as to the need for permits and whether or not any permits were pulled?
Yes, I did. The contract was for a new home build-out, and there was an additional contract for a detached garage and a pool enclosure. And didn't require a permit, but pavers around that pool.
And were those permits required within the the permits that were required, were they, let me get my page correct. Those eventually were terminated, is that correct?
They were, Banks did pull a permit on March 31st of 2022 for the accessory structure. On July 7th, Mr. Bonner submitted a termination letter of the permit, and Banks also submitted a cancellation form to our office.
Were any other permits required to be pulled?
There was some plumbing work done in the home, which was part of Mr. Banks' contract, and there was no evidence that there was anything pulled by Mr. Banks for the work he completed.
And within the contract, was there any notice of the recovery fund provided to the homeowner?
There was not.
And do you have a calculation of how much money Mr. Bonner was expended in this?
The total amount of the contract, that includes both contracts, was, make sure I'm clear on that, was $91,200. Mr. Bonner made a couple of deposits. First, $22,500 on July 23rd, 2021. He made another payment of $30,000 on September 23rd, 2021. And in the additional contract, so actually that's more, the additional contract for the enclosure around the pool and the outdoor shop, that was a $60,000 contract. And on February 22nd, 2022, Mr. Bonner made a payment of $25,000. And on February 24th, 2022, Mr. Bonner made an additional payment of $25,000.
All right, and then that doesn't include the funds that were paid out to American Concrete or other items that he took care of outside of that contract?
That's correct. Mr. Bonner had paid Mr. Banks for the concrete and the concrete work. He discovered in early August that a claim of lien was filed against him for the concrete. Mr. Bonner satisfied on August 31st that lien of $6,507.85. And further, the pavers were delivered to Mr. Bonner's home, and they were not paid for. Therefore, he had to pay the paver those funds. Mr. Banks was paid $50,000 in total to cover those costs and labor.
All right. I have no other questions for Ms. Reber, if the board has any questions.
Not at this time.
I have a
Or do you
question.
have a-
Do we know the amount of the pavers?
I do have that in here. The paver contract was, I believe it was. Sorry.
We're gonna
You may
enlarge
have
that
to-
a little bit. There we go.
I think that it was $44,000. I may not have that correct. What was it? 32,000, I'm sorry. A check was paid and bounced for $10,000 by Mr. Banks, and therefore, Mr. Bonner ended up paying $20,000. 22,000 towards that, and I do have the payments in here. This was for the building, which it never, I don't think it was delivered, and I don't think Mr. Banks paid anything on that building.
If it would assist the board, we could call. I don't know how you want to handle this. Do you want to handle it as the attorney testifying, or do you want to have your client come forward? Or you both want to come forward? Okay. If you could just come to the microphone.
Please state your name, sir.
I
My name is
apologize.
Wade Longby III. I'm the assistant in the law firm of Gerald McKenzie. We represent Mr. Brandon Bonner on his home at 250 East Johnson Avenue with the work that was done by Mr. Banks. We summarized a summary based on what Ms. Rivas said, what Mr. Bonner, there were 3 contracts initially. The first contract was contract 1 on 7/23 for $45,000, of which Mr. Bonner gave a down payment of $22,500. The second contract was on 9/22/21 for flooring, floor trims, tongue and groom ceilings, tiles, showers, the plumbing work, and those things. That was a $91,500 contract, of which Mr. Bonner gave him a down payment of $50,000, of which he did about $11,000 worth of work, which still left a $39,000 balance. The 40 by 40 garage, he did nothing on. He poured a slab, did some plumbing. Mr. Bonner gave him $50,000, of which nothing has been done on that. At this point, Mr. Bonner's restitution amount that we figured comes to like $111,500.
What was that amount again?
$111,500.
And I apologize, would it be all right if we heard from Mr. Bonner for just a
Sure.
moment? Thank you for giving us that calculation.
The only other thing I had for the board, if I can ask.
Sure.
I know most contractors have to furnish a certificate showing that they had insurance. So how do we go about finding out, was his insurance, valid at that time that he was doing this construction work? Because truthfully, for all these victims, if he had insurance and it was valid at that time, I think we need to be looking at his insurance company for some liability. If we can find out whether he was issuing actual certificates to the board or department showing that he was actually insured during this time that he was working?
I did do some research on that, and he did have valid insurance up until June 2nd of 2022.
Okay. The other thing I had a question on was any kind of restitution funds for the victims that maybe the county would have or the state would have for them to seek some type of restitution.
So currently, Mr. Banks is in bankruptcy proceedings. So the board and that's why I need to hear from Mr. Bonner, just so we can take in some evidence. But what will happen is at the next hearing, they can do a restitution finding. And with a restitution finding, that order can be taken and placed with the bankruptcy trustee and go in front of the bankruptcy trustee. But we have to have a finding before we get there. So I just need a little bit of evidence out of Mr. Bonner.
Can I ask a quick question, counsel? Was a notice of commence filed on the property?
That's the thing we're looking for. Mr. Bonner, was a notice of commencement filed? That means he starts doing the work and letting everyone know that he's gonna commence a contract? Was that ever posted, notice of commencement, was that ever posted anywhere on your property? Because it has to be posted.
So there was no notice to owner from the subs that they did work? Thank you.
Did he pull any permits at all, building permits at all on this?
He pulled a permit for the, 40x40 shop.
If I'm not mistaken, he'd have to file a notice of commencement to get a permit.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't have to.
Not to get a permit. Mr. Chairman, no, just to clarify, you can't get any inspections until you file that notice of commencement.
And I will add, Vice Chair, just for the record, that Mr. Bonner was serving as owner-builder on that property and trying to hire subs, but most subs were pulling their own permits.
Okay, thank
under
you.
Mr. Bonner's
Thank you.
home build.
That helps.
Mr. Bonner, and you might have to step up to the microphone so we could hear you a little clearer. Mr. Bonner, in your complaint, it says there was unfinished new construction
Yes, ma'am.
and the job was abandoned,
Say what now?
and the job was abandoned.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you give us some information as to that abandonment? When was the last time you had any contact with him, with Mr. Banks, if you recall?
I don't remember. It's been a while.
You-
'Cause I tried to call him. He won't even answer the phone.
Okay. It appears to me, looking at the contract, that there was a paid in full on February 24th
Yeah.
of 2022.
Yes.
Okay, and do you recall if any work was done after that? After the paid in full?
Well, he sent some guys over there to form up the concrete, like, do the footers, but I had to end up paying them guys.
Okay, so anybody he sent over there, you had to go ahead and pay them
Yeah.
yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Of the items that you requested of him, in the original contract was cabinetry, and I'll just go through the list and you stop me if it's incorrect. And you can tell me if there's any of these that he did complete, okay?
No, he never ordered my cabinets, my doors, my trim, none of that.
Okay. Exterior ceilings were required. Did he do any work on exterior ceilings?
On the what?
It says, exterior ceilings to install tongue and groove wood ceilings.
Yeah, he did the back porches, but it all fell down.
Okay. Tile showers and tub surrounds, was there any work done on
Yeah,
that?
he did all that, but he never paid the tile guy.
So did you end up having to pay the tile person?
Well, the guy don't even want to, he don't even want to come forward because he do it on the side.
Okay. What about the paint? Was any painting completed?
No, I had to, I'm getting my house repainted now.
Okay.
Like 10,000.
And what about the shower glass doors?
Never was ordered, never been put in.
Okay. So did you receive those shower glass doors?
No.
Okay. As far as your shop, he was supposed to pay the slab for the shop. Pour the slab for the shop.
Yeah.
Was that done?
Yeah, it was done, but I paid the concrete guys.
Okay. What about the pool enclosure? Any work done there?
Well, he had a guy with a pavers, but they was like 6 months doing it. He had like a little kids over there. So we got all of our pavers come in there, and we wrote a contract like $32,000, and he gave me a check for $10,000, but the check bounced, so I had to end up paying them like $22,000, or he was gonna put a lien on my house.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, Mr. Banks gave you a check for
Yeah, he
10,000?
gave me a check for the guy for the 10,000, but the guy didn't want to really do business with Matt, cause he said something ain't shady about this.
Okay, and so that check bounced and then you ended up having to pick up the amount?
Well, he still owed the paper guy 10,000.
Okay. And let me just, can you go to that? So, I see in here, there's a receipt where it says Brandon Bonner, 7/3/21, payment of $22,500 to Banks Construction. That's for the house cabinetry.
No, that's for the, if I'm not mistaken.
That's okay, let me,
Okay.
okay. So that's the receipt that's on the board, that was one of
Okay.
the that was for one of the payments? And I'm looking for your contract, the payment that you made to the pavers, the All About Pavers.
Yeah.
So where it breaks out there, where it shows the $10,000 in the notes,
Yeah. No.
it's gonna be a little bit further past that. It's gonna be the next. Okay, so this is the All About Pavers that you're telling the
Yes.
board about? Okay. So it looks like there ended up being a $20,000 deposit,
Yeah.
and that's something you paid out of pocket?
Well, I gave him $10,000 cashier's check, and Matt gave him 10,000.
And the other 10,000 that Matt gave him bounced?
Yeah, Matt check bounced.
So you had to give him another 10,000?
No, I didn't pay the other 10,000. I paid the remaining balance of the pavers, the other 12,000.
Okay, now I understand. I apologize. Thank you. So you ended up paying 22,000 on that.
Yeah.
And then there's an Atlas Builders Group. Can you see that receipt up there? It's the next one.
Sorry, it slips out.
On the Atlas Pavers Group, Builders Group, it looks like there was 15,000 down and then another 10,600 upon delivery. Did you make payments on that? I know it says Banks Construction, but were you held accountable for that?
For what now?
For this receipt from Atlas Builders Group? That was for the metal building?
No, I gave him $50,000 to put a metal building, to put my pavers and put my enclosure up.
You gave that to Banks?
Yeah,
Okay. And-
25,000 each time.
Okay, and none of this, you didn't receive any of these items? That's
No.
okay. And then there's also, it looks like where there was a $6,507.85 check to pay American Concrete
Yeah,
Supply.
They put a lien on my house, yeah.
Okay, and did that take care of the lien?
Yes.
All right. I don't have any other questions for this witness. The board has any questions?
I do not have any questions.
I would like to recall Mr. McKenzie if he has, I'm sorry. Mr. Longmire, please. It's Longmi. Okay, okay. Mr. Longmire, I just want to clarify that we, based on the information of the additional expenditures he had to make, the total that you're asking is $111,000.
$111,500.
And that includes all those additional expenditures?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions for the witnesses.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you. You ready for a motion for disciplinary hearing?
Thank you,
Excuse
Mr.
me.
Bonner.
I'm sorry.
Did we move the information into evidence, or?
We'll move it into evidence at this time if we did not.
I don't, did we?
We can go ahead and do it again. We may have, but.
Motion to move it into evidence, that's okay.
But I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now can I get a motion for disciplinary hearing?
I make a motion that we move it into disciplinary hearing based on the allegations cited in the investigative report.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I believe that is all the business for today.
That is all the business as far as those hearings. I do believe it is there an election scheduled for today? No? Okay. I apologize, I was looking at last week's at the last meeting, so I apologize for that. I'm just trying to make you do more work.
That's right. Can we have a motion for adjournment? Thank you. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.